Hey, y'all.
Hey.
So what I'm going to read is an essay I wrote called Constant Erasure. It's 13 pages. I'm going to read it all. No, I'm not. But it's a series of propositions, of jokes, of allegories, and anecdotes that form an experience about race. The mountainside campground was plucked out of an act from Brigadoon, except nobody was Scottish. Actually, somebody might have been Scottish, but the majority of us weren't. Rewind. The bride was a childhood friend, and everyone in her party was someone I'd known since forever. The groom and his entire half of the wedding party were Irish. We'd all flown in from various parts of the globe, forming what looks like a large and leafy palm tree. A shorter branch would be my brief flight from Boston, and the long and enduring trunk would be that of the Australian, whom I'd later follow, hand in hand into the woods during a particularly tricky patch of square dance instructions. Y'all would have done the same. The X mark was Camp Pinnacle, a sleepaway camp east of the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina. It was far enough, a few hours drive, from our Winston-Salem, North Carolina homes, and the Irish brogues bouncing all around the place made it feel like a destination. We stayed together in bunks, some of us for the second or third time in our lives, and later in the cool blue AM, we'd sneak back into the mess hall for second helpings of barbecued brisket, chopped slaw, and corn pudding. We hummed with the mischief of whichever Irish beer we tried too much of for the first time. We were kids again, but adults. I brushed the pine needles from my hands and knees and walked into the light of the now-swinging barn. The Australian followed me 5 beats behind. My oldest and number one ace, we'll call her Z, was bored with clapping for her fiancé, who was do-si-doing merrily but slowly with somebody's great aunt. Instead, Z focused her attention on me, the Australian, in our ill-paced procession. I sat next to her and tried not to smirk. "Where'd you just come from?" she said, squinting. "The woods over there." "Oh my God, you're such a whore," she said. "Whatever," I said. We laughed for a second, and as her fiancé dipped Gertrude to the floor and back up again, I said, "Oh," she said, "how did that happen?" "I don't know," I said. "We were talking, and the next thing I knew, he was leading me into the bush, so to speak." She looked off into the distance, half smiling and shaking her head as if baffled. "You're so mysterious." I didn't know what to say. The fact that she'd known me since I was 9 years old and still considered me mysterious felt like an accomplishment of sorts. Without meaning to be, I was a puzzle she couldn't quite work out. Ricky Tucker, eluding the comprehension of loved ones for over 20 years. I'll take it, I thought, until she said, "Well, you know he only did it because you're black, right?" Again, I didn't know what to say. Had I responded, I would have asked her how exactly she found it impossible for anyone to bypass my smile, winning personality, and general attractiveness to arrive at such a basic point. Also would have said, "So what? We're all a composite of stats that form our sexual experience. Why pluck race out of that pile?" I could have gone into a diatribe about the etymology of words like mysterious and how they run rampant in texts like Heart of Darkness. I wanted to start a genuine conversation with her about how, as a species, humans give priority to sight, how this 1 sense out of 5 can still revert at moments like these to associations more Cro-Magnon than Homo sapien. Finally, I would have told her that she shouldn't go around just saying everything she thought. Simple and rude. But I didn't say anything. Instead, I continued clapping, watching Aunt Dorothy delight in being twirled around weightless and young again. A black man walks into a bar. He looks up and says, "Who said that?" A man walks into a bar. Even before arriving, he knows the Boston establishment to be unsavory and that it caters to fraternity types, a less commonly dreaded but just as riffraff an element as any. "Oh well," he says to himself, "wings and beer are the great equalizers." He removes his gloves and sits, waiting for his academic brothers to show. Half a pint later, he welcomes his 2 tweeted jacket friends to the table. They are lively and in good spirits as the afternoon sun has rustled the New England frost to the ground. One friend starts with a "hey, hey." The other gentleman, while pulling out a stool, smiling and uncoiling his satin scarf from his neck, says, "I hope this place is okay. I have my concerns." Thinking it prudent for now to reserve his own fleeting prejudices regarding the bar's clientele, the first man says, "What concerns were those?" "Well," I thought to myself, his friend begins, "I wonder if I made a mistake picking this place. I wouldn't want Ricky to be the only black person in the room." "It's fine," I say. Color blindness. Here's the thing. I've never been oblivious to race, and neither have you. It's damn near impossible. And when you say you are, it smacks of tragic cliche, like when people assure you they can never be too skinny or rich. Or just that they're certain that all animals go to heaven. Like enough, really. What's more interesting, but just as impossible, is the concept of being blind to one's own race. Again, it can't be done. But as a person of color and general observer of the world, I can tell you that there are times when you're completely whole and content within, focus mostly on spaces outside of yourself, and you slip up and become, if only partially or momentarily, less aware of your own physical assignment on Earth. You don't see yourself, and every bit of what you see before you, people, relationships, grass, is meant to be there. Everything full of grace. And at that perfectly selfless moment of Zen is precisely when one of your white friends, without provocation, comes right along to remind you that you are certifiably, inescapably, and unfortunately black. A man grows a third eye that allows him to see into the fourth dimension. When exposed, the eye receives from the astral plane transcripts of people's shittiest thoughts and delivers them to the man's brain. He finds this a bothers, and he takes to wearing a black blindfold over the extra eye. His friends, in turn, take to calling him Kung Fu Larry. Instead of shaking his hand, they chop the air in front of his face, saying hi-ya instead of hello. When he walks by a dojo, everyone bows, and his girlfriend buys him a full-on black belt ensemble because Mama liked you this new look. He removes the blindfold and says sayonara as he jumps for the town bridge. A black man walks into a bar and immediately exits through the kitchen. Thank you.
Wow.